In this video, I want to show you the basics of R to get you comfortable with R. For many of you, this is the first time you've ever used or seen R, so I want to ease you into it. We're going to be using R throughout this course, so bear with me while we go through this and you learn. And really, by the end of this course, you really will be good at R, I promise you. So be patient with yourself as you learn. That's the best advice. I had to go through this. There is a learning curve, but you'll be there. You'll get there. So the first thing I want to call out is this is RStudio that you're looking at. And this is where I write most of my notes. And you can think about this as you would be in a classroom taking notes on a piece of paper. This is really where you're going to document because you can save this. You can hit save and it'll keep all your work so you never have to duplicate it. You know, if you write pretty good notes, and I'm going to show you how I write notes. But when we talk about correlations, you can write all your notes about correlation and save it. Same thing with regression and all these other things we'll do. It'll be a great place to store your notes. So let's start off with an example. We're going to pretend like we want to store the value 5 in a variable we're going to call x. So the way we do it is in R, you put whatever you want to call it, so x in this case, and then you do this line here, and then whatever number we want to store into x, and we can either highlight it and hit run, which now you've seen it actually puts in the console. And the console is where it actually performs, R actually performs whatever you want it to do. But again, this is where you take notes and stuff, and that way if you want to modify it here, you can just delete, hit 7, and then run that again, right? So it makes this really convenient. And you can see R has stored the value here. Okay, so there you go. That's assigning a value to a variable. Pretty straightforward. Now I want to call out something. R is case sensitive. So if I were to do capital X here, and so hold on, before I get into that, if we hit X here and then hit run, it prints out the value. So R tells us that the value of X is 5. That's great. Now if I were to hit the capital X and hit run, again, you can either keep the cursive on the line, so R knows you want to run line 3, or you can highlight it. I tend to highlight. I kind of go back and forth, honestly, but whatever. So if I hit this, R is going to say, oh, we didn't find X because it's case sensitive, right? We stored it in a lowercase x, not a capital X. So that can be kind of annoying when you're going through R, as it is case sensitive. But the great thing is R is very flexible. So we could decide we want to override X and we want to change the value from 5 to 7. That's easy. All you do is do this command, and look, in R the value changes, and we can verify that by typing in X and hitting run, and now we have 7. So that's really, really cool. And so this is where you see stuff in the workspace. So if we want to store a value called Y and we want to do 11, we can hit run, and there you go. So now you can see all the values that you've stored in R. Great. Now let's pretend like, well, we just did this 11, but now we don't need it anymore. We don't need 11. We want to get rid of it. Pretend like we had a lot of values here. It's just too much space. R, you can easily remove things by typing RM as a shortcut for remove. And then you can type in Y. And this is saying, I want to get rid of this Y. And you hit run, and there it goes. So it's really cool. And if we were to to show you that it's gone, you can type in Y again, and R doesn't know what Y is now because we've removed it. So we can store it back. So great. Instead of me typing again, this is the benefit of typing this stuff in the script, is I can actually come here and just rerun it. Boom. So I don't have to do anything else. That's why I say storing it and saving it is very, very important for this course. All right, now you'll notice that this console is going to have all the output, and it kind of logs what we've done. This can get really cluttered quite quickly, and so you can find out the shortcut if you have a PC, but for a Mac, it's pretty easy to remove. You just hit Control L, and then it erases it. And a lot of times I like to clean up the console just because it can get really cluttered. All right, so now that we've talked about storing values into variables, let's talk about actually performing math. Like R can do math. Simply, we can do 11 plus 7, and we can hit run, and it gives us 18. So, if we wanted to use R as a calculator, we can do that. It can do many things. It can do 11 times 7. Oh, that's cool. It can do 11 minus 7. Or we could do 11, you guessed it, divided by 7. Okay, so we can do all those different things, but notice that I've typed out the numbers, but we actually have these values stored in x's and y's. Well, we can easily perform the same type of stuff with those values. We can do x plus y, hit run, and it gives us 18, just like we did with 11 plus 7. So as long as you have values stored, you can use those values in mathematical functions. So I could repeat what I've done up there, but notice that I could replace these 11 and 7s with the values, and it would give us the same information. Now, sometimes you don't want to just simply know, you want to actually create a new variable. So what if we, in this case, I'm going to edit, or actually I'll come down to new line. And this time we want to say, we want to store the output of our mathematical equation into a new value called z. So in this case, we want to do x times y, and it gives us now the value, which if we did 11 times 7, it would be 77, and so now that's the value z. So if we were to type z now and hit run, we get 77. So that just gives you, shows you sort of things you can do. Now you don't have to just use, and notice in these examples that I've done, I've used just both numbers or both letters, but you don't have to. You can do y plus 7, and you get 18, right? So R is very flexible in that sense. Another cool thing is if we wanted to know the absolute value of something, just a quick example, this is the command, abs, and we would type in, let's say, -14, what we want, or -14, the absolute value of that is 14 clearly, but if we hit run, there you go, R gives us the 14. So a lot of mathematical functions you can do in R, and it's pretty versatile. Now, I'll end this video by, I keep talking about notes, but it's really important in this course to write notes to yourself. Well, in the script, the way you can write it so R doesn't get confused and know not to run it, if you do a hash mark, then R will not run anything after you type. So a lot of times what I do is I do a hash ... and I'll say math in R. Or you could, if we were doing correlations or something, so how to run a correlation or something. So you could just make a note to yourself, and every single time, right? And you don't have to do it necessarily above. You could do it to the side. You could do it here. Add in R or something. I think it's cleaner to keep it on top, but you make a preference, and I even make it usually where I'll do double space here, so I can follow the hash marks down. You design it however it will make sense to you, but just know that you need to make good notes in the scripts, because you're going to want to come back to this and remind yourself how to perform, because we're going to be talking about quite a bit of analyses. So that's it for this video.